Greetings, wizards. Welcome to the Papercraft Wizard channel. My name is Kelly and I'm so glad you're here. In this video, we're going to be creating a fun trifold notebook holder. To start off, I have two sheets here. I have one that's 12 inches by 24 inches. If you don't have 24-inch paper, go ahead and use two 12 by 12s and just adhere them with a 1/2 inch overlap. And then I have this additional sheet that's 12 inches by 8 inches. I'm going to add that together because I need to have a total of 31.5 inches across. I used my scoreboard to create a light score line at 1/2 inch. And so I'm going to use my liquid adhesive and I'm going to go up to that score line. And then I'll adhere the two sheets together. And I want to make sure that is as straight as possible so that all of our chipboard pieces will line up and there will be plenty of space on each side to fold it up over the edges of the chipboard. I'm going to use my bone folder here and make sure that that is burnished down really well. And next we can start adhering our chipboard pieces. Our first piece of chipboard that we're adding is 10 inches by 2.5. All of our pieces of chipboard will be 10 inches in length. This piece of chipboard also has the mitered corners here. And what I did was I marked at 1 inch on each side here and trimmed it off with my cutter. I'm going to go ahead and add the adhesive to this side of the chipboard since we need those corners to be facing outward. And then I'm going to set that down here about 1 inch away from the edge and 1 inch from the bottom and the top. This is approximate, but we want to make sure it's pretty straight because of the fact that, we need to go across the whole thing and we want them all to be straight. So I am just checking to make sure that we are as straight as possible. And then we'll go ahead and just use our bone folder to make sure that's on there nice and secure. All right, our next piece that we'll use is a 2-inch piece. All right, now for this one and every piece, we want to have an 1/8 gap. If you don't have something to help you space it to make sure that it is 1/8 inch, you can always just mark out 1/8 inch and draw a line. And then adhere this in place. So I want to make sure that there's that 1/8 inch gap. And I also want to make sure that my chipboard pieces are aligned well. Once I have that right where I want it, I'll go ahead and use my bone folder to make sure it's nice and secure. I'm going to go ahead and use my roller to mark out another 1/8 inch space. Our next piece is going to be our 10 inch by 7 inch piece. And just as we have with the others, we'll go ahead and add our adhesive and adhere that down. We want to make sure we have that 1/8 inch gap. And of course, again, we want to make sure that all of our chipboard lines up. And then I'll go ahead and use my bone folder to make sure that that piece is nice and secure as well. All right, I marked my 1/8 inch space and I'm adding the adhesive and adhering down our next 2-inch spine piece. Then we'll go ahead and make sure that's nice and secure. Our next piece is a 10-inch by 6 7/8 inch piece. I'm going to go ahead and use my ruler to make my 1/8 inch mark. And we'll go ahead and put that down. So I'm just going to add the adhesive and adhere it into place. Ruler. I want to make sure that that is as straight as possible. One of the great things about working with the liquid adhesive is a little bit more play you get with it. Right, we'll go ahead and add our 1/8 inch line mark. And now we have a 1-inch piece. So we'll go ahead and add our adhesive, adhere that down. And again, I'm going to take my ruler just to try to make sure that's all lined up properly. And then I'll take my bone folder and make sure that's nice and secure. Our final piece is our 6 3/4 inch piece. And we will do the same thing here with the ruler and the 1/8 inch mark. And now we'll just add some adhesive to the back of our chipboard and put that into place. Seems pretty straight. So I'll go ahead and use my bone folder. Our next step is to miter our corners. So I'm just going to take my scissors and make sure I leave about 1/8 of an inch paper after that corner there. And then we'll do the same thing for this corner as well. On this end, it's a bit more tricky because we have our little spaces here. So on this one, I left 1/8 of an inch and I cut in to that corner. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Leave about 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut this corner off. We're just going to trim it right to about 1/8 of an inch. And again, from this angle, about 1/8 of an inch. And then we're going to go ahead and just cut off that corner. So the first part I'm going to adhere down are these little angled corners. I'm going to add my adhesive. Push this up, make sure it's nice and secure. Use my bone folder. Fold that over and in. I'm going to add some adhesive to this corner and adhere that corner down. And now I'm going to go ahead and secure this tab here at the end. Now I'm going to switch to the other end and get this ready to adhere down. Add some liquid adhesive. And use my bone folder to help me get that down nice and secure. That burnished down really well, and then I'm also going to push these little corners down here. But we're just going to go right along the edges. I'm using my bone folder to help me make sure that this is folding over nice and tight. And I'm going to go all the way down to the other end, doing this very same thing. And I'm going to go all the way down to the end here. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and add my liquid adhesive. I do like to go up to the chipboard. It adds that little bit of liquid, so when you're bending it, it gives the paper just a little more give. Though this paper I'm using is a very good brand. I haven't had any cracking at all with it. And it's a Cricut brand paper. And I'll put the information on this paper in the description. But of course, any paper that you normally use for this type of project will work. I'm going to go ahead and use my bone folder to kind of crease the paper into those 8-inch gaps in between the chipboard and continue to smooth it down until it is all sticking and it's nice and secure. It does take a little bit. It just takes a few minutes to work it in and get it in there really well. Now we'll go ahead and turn our project around. We'll go ahead and use the bone folder to start prepping the paper on this side. You want to make sure that, again, that this is nice and tight so there's no wonky edges on your book. And now we'll go ahead and add our adhesive. And I'll go ahead and do just as I have with all the other edges and try to get this paper down nice and secure and nice and tight as well. Okay, so now that we have all of our chipboard pieces on, we have our cover paper completely wrapped around our cover. We're going to go ahead and start getting these pieces bent into place. So I'm just taking it now. I've already used my bone folder to push that excess paper into the cracks. We have 1/8 of an inch, so there's plenty of room and shouldn't be any tearing on our paper. And so I am able to easily fold this right up. And this is the base for our notebook holder. The next step is to cover all of the inside spine pieces. We have 2 pieces here that are 9 7/8 by 3, and those are going to cover our 2-inch internal spines. And then we have an additional piece that is 9 7/8 by 2.5 inches, and that will cover our 1-inch spine piece. Okay, so I'm just going to add my adhesive. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere that down over that 2-inch spine. And I'm going to try to make it equal on the ends. I'm going to use my bone folder to create this score line. And slowly turn this page, fold this end up just to make sure that that is on there nice and secure. And then I'll go ahead and use my bone folder to create a score line in the other side. So we're going to take our second 8 7/8 by 3-inch piece and make sure that we have plenty of adhesive around the edges. And I'm going to cover this whole thing, but then I'm also going to go in and add some adhesive right around the edges of the spine piece, as well as the edges of the adjoining pieces of chipboard. And this is just to help make sure that our piece of cardstock doesn't try to pull up. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere that down. I'm trying to make this equal over that spine piece. We're going to use the bone folder to make sure that that is nice and secure. And once that's nice and secure, we'll move on to the next one. We're going to do the same thing here by adding this adhesive around the edges. I'm also going to run a bead of adhesive on the edges of the spine piece, as well as the adjoining pieces of chipboard. And then we'll go ahead and put this right into place. And use the bone folder to get that really nice and secure. I'm going to go back to this one here in the center. I'm going to use my bone folder and create that score line to help us fold that piece up. There we go. And then we'll do the other side of that spine piece as well. And we'll come over to our 1-inch spine piece and do the same thing. Our notebook holder folds up nicely. All right, we also have this piece here that I'm going to go ahead and adhere into place. Here we have a piece that's approximately 8.5 inches by 6.5 inches. And I'm just going to use that to put right over this piece here. We're going to have our notebook sliding in, so you will be able to see the background of this, and I'm just trying to cover up the chipboard. The piece really only needs to go, maybe be about 2 inches, but I just went ahead and made a piece that would cover the whole back of that chipboard. So I am just adding my adhesive, and then I'll adhere that down into place. And of course, it wouldn't be a party if I didn't get glue all over my fingers. We aren't going to bother covering the chipboard with our base cardstock for the other pieces because our decorative cardstock will cover that nicely. Now we're going to add the decorative paper to the exterior of the book. We're going to go ahead and turn it over. So I've gone ahead and laid out all of the papers that I'll be using. For the first one, this paper is 9 7/8 by 6 5/8, and that's going to be on our first spot here. So I'm going to go ahead and use my liquid adhesive, and then we'll adhere this down. I almost forgot to mention that I do ink all of the edges of my paper to make sure that it has that nice finished look. Now I'm just going to adhere that down, and we should have about a 1/16 of an inch around the edges. I'm just going to bend this to make sure that I have that in a good place. And when I have it where I'd like it, I'm going to use my bone folder and make sure that's nice and secure. I'll do the same for our next piece, which is 9 7/8 by 7/8, and that's going to cover our 1-inch spine piece. Sometimes it's easier to lift up the project and see where that spine is. Once I have it where I like it, I'm going to use my bone folder and make sure it's nice and secure. So this piece, I kind of Frankensteined it together a little bit, using some of the border pieces from the paper collection on the top and bottom. So I'm just going to peel off my release paper for my double-sided tape. I'll add some liquid adhesive. And then we'll go ahead and put this into place as well. I just want to make sure that I am not going too far over on the edge. Once we have that in place, we'll go ahead and make sure that's nice and secure. And I have another spine piece here, so I'm going to go ahead and add my adhesive and then adhere that down as well. This piece is 9 7/8 by 1 7/8. I'm going to make sure that that is on there nice and secure. And our next sheet that we'll be adhering is our back panel. And this sheet is 9 7/8 by 6 7/8. I'm going to go ahead and add my liquid adhesive, and then we'll adhere that into place. We'll get that as straight as possible, and then I'll use my bone folder. Our next piece is 9 7/8 by 1 7/8. We will add our liquid adhesive. And now we'll adhere this into place. And I'll use my bone folder to make sure that's nice and secure. And now I'm going to adhere my final piece. This piece is 9 7/8 by 2 3/8. And I've cut the corners here just as I did on our chipboard. I measured out 1 inch from the tip of the paper in, both horizontal and vertical. And then I just used my paper trimmer to make sure it was straight and trimmed both corners. So I'll go ahead and add my liquid adhesive. And then we'll adhere that in place. Now I'm just placing the magnets on top of the other magnets that are under the paper. I'll add some double-sided tape to these and use my bone folder just to secure it. And then I'll take off all of our release papers. And now we're going to make sure this is right as we would want it when we're closing the notebook. Make sure those are in place, and then we'll pull those up. And that is the best way to transfer some magnets. And now we'll add the piece for our magnet closure here. This piece is 9 7/8 by 2 3/8. And again, I just cut those corners by measuring 1 inch in and 1 inch down, and then I cut those corners off. And now I'm going to add the adhesive. And adhere this to our magnet closure. And make sure that is nice and secure. And then we'll close it up just to make sure those magnets hold. And they do. They hold very, very well. For both of our 2-inch spines, I have these cute little spine covers. And each of these measure 9 7/8 by 1 7/8. We'll add our liquid adhesive and then we'll adhere them into place. And we'll just try to center this as straight as possible on that spine piece. I'll use my bone folder. Let's talk about the age-old question of liquid adhesives for a second. What type of liquid adhesive are you using? What are your favorite things about it? Let us know in the comments. I have a piece of Tyvek that's 8 inches by 6 5/8 inches, and a piece of decorative cardstock that's 8 3/8 inches by 6 7/8 inches. And I'm going to adhere this piece of Tyvek right onto our decorative pocket. And this will just strengthen our pocket so that it doesn't easily rip when we're sliding our notebook in and out or pulling on the pages of the notebook. So I'm going to add a good amount of liquid adhesive to the very top. This is where the majority of the action is going to take place for this piece of Tyvek. And now we'll adhere our piece of Tyvek right to the back of this cardstock. And we want to make sure we line up the Tyvek close to that top piece. Once we have that where we'd like it, we'll go ahead and take our bone folder and make sure that Tyvek is nice and secure on the back of our decorative paper. Now that we have our Tyvek on the back of our decorative paper, we'll go ahead and just place that down, line it up about 1/16 of an inch from the bottom. And this is going to be a pocket, so I will not add adhesive to the top. I will only add adhesive about 1/2 inch in all the way around the edges. And I want to make sure that I get plenty of liquid adhesive on the decorative paper where it's exposed. Okay, now we're going to line that up about 1/16 of an inch from the bottom. And we want to make sure it's nicely snug between our score lines. We want to make sure it's as flat as possible up against our base. We have our piece that is 1 3/8 inches by 6 7/8 inches, and we're going to adhere that right up here at the top of the pocket, and there will be a little space between the pocket and this decorative piece. I have inked up the edges of all of my decorative pieces of paper to give them a more finished look. Once I have that in place right where I want it, I'll use my bone folder to make sure it's nice and secure. Now that we have this pocket created, we could go ahead and test it out with our notebook. And I'm just going to slide that right into place. And then there we go. To cover our little Oxford here, I'm going to use this Love and Be Loved sticker from the collection. I'm going to add a little bit of liquid adhesive to it to ensure that it does not go anywhere. And I'm going to try to center this. You could measure it out. I'm just going to eyeball it. Now we'll work on the pocket for our last flap. I have cut this piece of cardstock to 9.5 inches by 6.5 inches. I've scored on the left hand side and the bottom at 1/2 inch, and I've trimmed the top right corner. And what I did to trim that top right corner before I mitered the corners of the tabs I created to adhere the pocket, I measured 2 inches up and marked it 2 inches across from the top and marked it, and then trimmed with my cutter to get that angle. This piece of decorative paper is 8 7/8 inches by 5 7/8 inches. And I did the same thing here to mark these pockets. For these, I marked them at 1.5 inch and 1.5 inch, and then trimmed them with my paper cutter. Before adhering any angled pockets that you create, I strongly recommend making sure that they line up perfectly and trimming again if necessary. We'll add our liquid adhesive to the back of our decorative piece. And then we'll adhere that right into place on our pocket. And now this pocket is ready. I'm just going to fold these over at the score lines. I'll bring our notebook holder back over here, and I'm going to go to this last section. This last section, remember, is 10 inches by 6 3/4 inches. So the paper for our last flap measures 9 7/8 by 6 5/8 inches. I'm going to flip that over. I want to make sure that we're putting the pocket on the correct side. So this is how it will look once it's in the book. We're going to go ahead and push that paper all the way in on the horizontal and the vertical. We'll take our liquid adhesive. We will adhere this tab to the back of the decorative paper. We want to make sure that's nice and secure on there. And we want to keep that paper as tight into that fold as possible. And now we'll also do it down here with this bottom flap. And now here is our pocket piece. And I'll go ahead and adhere this to our last 10 by 6 3/4 inch section. You just want to line that up, and then we'll add our liquid adhesive. All right, and once we have that right where we want it, we'll take our bone folder and make sure it is nice and secure. I'm going to pull out my scoreboard. I have a piece of acetate here that measures 2 1/4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And we're going to score at 1/2 inch and 3/4 on 3 sides of the pocket. This will be our cute little background piece that's behind the pocket, and I have gone ahead and inked up the edges. This piece of cardstock measures 2 1/4 by 3 5/8 inches. The acetate that I'm using has a film protector on both sides. If you don't have that and you're concerned about scratching it up, you may want to place a piece of paper down on your scoreboard before you underneath your acetate. All right, so I'm going to score this on 3 sides at 1/2 inch and at 3/4 of an inch. We will take our scissors and we're going to cut out the corners. Just cutting right up to that score mark and then coming over again. I know it's hard to see because it's acetate. We'll go ahead and from this end in as well. Pull that off. And then we'll do the same thing for this corner. And now I'm also going to go ahead and miter the corners. I just recently ran out of 1/4 inch, so I'll be using 1/8 inch on this project. I do recommend red line tape when adhering to acetate, as the paper tapes just don't seem to work as long, hold as long. Now I am just using this red line tape on the 1/2 inch portion of the tab. I'm just going to go ahead and use my bone folder very carefully. Try not to scratch up the other pieces of the acetate. I want to make sure that that red line tape is nice and secure on there. Now that our red line tape is on there nice and secure, I'm going to go ahead and pull off the release plastic for that bottom tab. I'm going to take my paper, and we want it the side that we're going to see up. We want to adhere this right before that score line to ensure that we get that right in the correct place. Now we also want to fold at our 1/4 inch score line. Acetate pockets are not the easiest, but they are a lot of fun. If you don't have acetate, you can use cardstock or decorative paper to create this pocket. Now I'm just folding at all of our score lines. To ensure that our business cards don't fall out of our pocket, I'm going to use a little bit of this honeycomb ribbon to create a ribbon closure. So I'm just going to kind of measure this out here, and I think this is about enough. So I have about 4 inches of ribbon. I'm going to use 2 heavy duty magnets. These magnets are pretty strong. I'm just going to take a regular old piece of double-sided tape. I'm going to stick that on the bottom of our ribbon. I'm going to add some liquid adhesive around it. We'll put our magnet right in place. Try to make sure it's nice and secure on there as much as possible. And we're going to add liquid adhesive all the way around this. Okay, and we'll go ahead and set that aside for a moment to dry. Okay, and while our magnetic ribbon is drying, we'll go ahead and come over here and take off our red line release paper for our first side tab. And then we'll go ahead and adhere that into place. So now I'm just going to go ahead and adhere that spot into place as well. And if your pocket looks a little wobbly at first, no worries. It's going to end up looking just fine. We're going to use a sticker from the collection. I'm selecting this little Hello Sunshine sticker. I'm going to add my magnet right on to the back of it And I'm trying to center it as much as possible. First of all, let me make sure. I want to make sure I have it the right way. So I will put it like this. And just to make sure it's nice and secure, I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of my red line tape on both of these little edges. Now we'll take our little sticker, try to get it straight, and once it is straight, we will push it into place. It feels like it's pretty secure. All right, and then our magnets will go like this, and we'll adhere our ribbon to the back. So I'm going to go ahead and just trim off some of the excess ribbon here, just a bit. Oh, wow. And now I'm going to go ahead and adhere the ribbon with some liquid adhesive. And now we have our cute little pocket with a strong magnetic closure to hold our business cards in place. We'll set that aside while we move on to our next acetate pocket. For our last section of our notebook holder, we're going to use these two pieces of decorative cardstock. This will be the piece that goes on top, and this will be the backing for our large acetate pocket. I went ahead and inked up all of the edges to give them that finished look. And now we'll use the acetate to create our pocket. We'll be creating this pocket very similar to the way we did our smaller business card pocket. However, this pocket will be a 1/2 inch deep instead of a 1/4 inch deep. So I have two pieces of acetate here. This first piece of acetate is 5 inches by 8 3/4 inches, and this will be our pocket. This second piece of acetate is 3 inches by 6 3/4 inches, and this will be the lid to our acetate pocket. For our pocket, I'm going to score our acetate at 1/2 inch and at 1 inch on 3 sides. So 1/2 inch there, 1 inch here. We'll turn it long ways, and a 1/2 inch here, and 1 inch here. And then back on the other short side, we will do a 1/2 inch there, and then 1 inch. Oh, I just make sure that's in the right spot. The acetate does like to move around quite a bit. And so here we have it. There are 4 squares here. We'll be cutting those off as we did with the other one, and then Now for the lid to our acetate pocket, we're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 1 inch on one of the long edges. So I have that in there, and I'm scoring this long edge at 1/2 inch and at 1 inch. I'm going to use my corner cutter punch and punch both edges of that just to give it a little bit more interest. So the back of our acetate pocket is this piece of cardstock measuring 4.5 inches by 6 3/4 inches. And again, I did go ahead and ink up the edges of that to give it a nice finished look. Let's start with our pocket first. Just as we did with the small pocket, we're going to take our scissors and we're going to trim away these 4 little squares that we created when we were scoring the pocket. And now we're going to miter all of our corners of the tabs only. We don't want to miter our side panels, just our little 1/2 inch tabs. Now we'll go ahead and we'll fold it all of our score lines. And there is our acetate pocket. I've decided to try to make this a little bit easier on myself. I'm going to put my red line tape directly onto my decorative paper. So I am only going up about 4 inches because that top 1/2 inch is going to be for our acetate lid. I'll use my bone folder and make sure those are nice and secure. Now that we have all of the tape on there, I'll go ahead and make sure it's all nice and secure. I'm going to start with our bottom piece. I'm just going to pull off the release plastic for our red line tape. Just making sure that's the right orientation. And now I'm going to secure it into place. Just want to line that up as close as I can. And then I'll take that and secure it down really well. All right, that worked out pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and do the same on the sides. I want to make sure my pocket is lined up correctly and as square as possible. And then I'll go ahead and use my bone folder and make sure that's nice and secure. And we'll move on to the other side. Again, I'm just going to slide this over. Make sure it is square and then adhere it down. If your acetate pocket seems a little wonky, that is just what they do. They are a little wonky. We'll work on our lid to our pocket. And now fold in our score lines. And now we're going to go ahead and remove our backing of our double-sided tape. And we're going to take and we'll take our pocket lid. Now we will add our magnets to our acetate pocket. And to do this, I like to use stickers. So for the first sticker, I'm going to use this Be Kind sticker from the collection. I'm just going to add a little bit of red line tape to it to make sure that it stays nice and secure for as long as possible. So I'm going to take my first magnet and stick it right about the middle of that sticker. So now we're going to add our magnet near the bottom, and I'm trying to use my mat here to help me line this one up so that it's in the correct spot. I'm being very careful not to scratch my acetate up. Now we have our other piece there, our other magnet, and I've just stuck it to the back of this one. I'm going to use a little piece of the red line tape and hope it will adhere to this magnet. It's not always super successful. And then we'll take that and we'll adhere it right to where we'll make sure that our cloth pocket is closing properly. And then we adhere that right into place. And this is being difficult, so I'm going to take some of the sticky notes that I'm going to put in there, and I'm going to set that right there so that it has something to cling to. And we want to make sure our pocket is nice and straight, and then we'll go ahead and adhere that magnet into place just like that. Hope it stays. Yes. Okay. And now we'll use a second sticker to cover up our new magnet. And I really like this Be Yourself sticker. Right over that magnet. And then I'll make sure I push it down really hard with my finger. Maybe even bring in the bone folder a little bit. Again, be really careful not to scratch your acetate when you do this. And then, of course, you can see the magnet through the top. So if that's important to you, you may want to, use stickers that are the same or the same size and then put them together. To me, you only see it when you're folding it up, so I don't mind just leaving it like that. And here is our completed acetate pocket. So next, I'll bring our album back in and we'll be working on this page here. Before we start working on this page, I feel like adhering this down. So this is 9 7/8 by 7/8 inches. And this is our last inside spine piece, and it goes over our 1-inch spine. So I'm going to go ahead and add my adhesive, and then we'll adhere that into place. Center that right over the spine. Looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and use my bone folder and make sure that's nice and secure. Now that we have that in place, let's dry fit our background piece and our acetate pocket. First, I'll lay down the top part here. If you're enjoying this video, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and the bell icon for notifications. If you have a request for a tutorial, let me know in the comments. Now that our background piece is in place, I'm going to add some red line tape all the way around the edge of our acetate pocket. Okay, and once those are on there, I'm just going to use my bone folder and try to stick down that adhesive a little bit better. Add my post-it notes in there, and that will help to create a surface that you can push on to make sure that that red line tape is going to stay in place. And now we'll go ahead and release our adhesive. Once all of our adhesive has been released, I'm going to add liquid adhesive, and I'm going to go all the way around the edges of the acetate. I want to make sure that that pocket stays on there very well. So now I'm going to stick it into place, and I want to make sure we are right up against our top piece. Now that I have that right about where it needs to be, I'm going to use my bone folder to help make sure that that double-sided tape adheres. Now our acetate pocket is complete. So let's adhere our smaller pocket. I'm going to place it right about here. I want to make sure there's plenty of room for the flap to be able to open for our larger pocket without interference. And I think our pocket looks really cute right about here. So before we adhere that pocket into place, I want to add a sticker. Before I adhere this pocket down, I want to add this cute little sticker. A chipboard piece would work here as well. I just liked the way this sticker looked. I'm going to add this cute little gem where the top of this little tag hole is. I'm also going to add this cute little piece of chipboard. It has a bee on it and it says Buzz. Now let's prep our small pocket. Just as I did with the large pocket, I'm going to add some red line tape around the bottom and side edges where the acetate is. And this will help ensure that our acetate stays in place. Now we'll release our adhesive. We'll bring our notebook holder back. I'm going to add liquid adhesive very generously to the back of our pocket. I'm going to make sure I go around all of the edges of the acetate, all over the top, and also all over the back of our ribbon. I'll use my small bone folder and try to make sure that that is all nice and secure. I'm also going to use my larger bone folder to make sure that top part is in place. To decorate our corner pocket here, I've selected these two cut apart images from the collection, and I am going to ink up their edges and use some black cardstock to pop them up and adhere them onto this pocket. I'm just going to use my scissors to just trim up a few pieces. They don't have to be the perfect size, just close enough. So I'll use those two for that one. Slide this up just a bit. And I add some liquid adhesive to the back of this piece. And adhere the cardstock to the back of this piece. Use my bone folder to make sure it's nice and secure. And then we'll add adhesive to the back of that cardstock piece. And I'm going to set this one right about here. Now I'm going to adhere these two pieces together. We'll add some adhesive Do one side. Adhere on our decorative piece. And then we'll add a little bit more adhesive. And we will place this right about there. And now we'll make our pen holder for our pen. So I am just using my liquid adhesive, and then I'm going to go ahead and adhere that together. I'm going to use my small bone folder to make sure that is nice and secure. And I'm going to add a little more adhesive to the back of this ribbon. We'll go ahead and place that down. And I'll use my bone folder to make sure it gets nice and secure there. Once that's on there and dry, we'll go ahead and slide our pen right in. And here you have it. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring that bell icon for notifications. Thank you for watching. Happy crafting!